around Saxony for the next 6 days. Saxony is the state in the southeast of Germany, and it's the #1 destination for culture-loving tourists. But that you know already. My colleagues and I have been telling you for years. But finally, you have a chance to see for yourself what Saxony has to offer in terms of architecture, art and music. You will also travel through beautiful landscapes and sample some of Saxony's best food. And you will encounter some of Saxony's best known products. But who am I talking to? You haven't even arrived yet. Oh, but it's getting late. I better hurry to the airport to pick you up. Welcome to Dresden Airport. The IATA code here is DRS. It's one of 2 airports in Saxony, the other one being in Leipzig. Dresden's airport is one of the oldest in the country. The first one was established in 1913. This location is the 3rd location and it was established in 1935. In 1955, Dresden was designated the center of the East German aircraft industry. 3 years later, this building was erected as a production site for the first German jetliner, the 152. Nevertheless, it never made it into full production and the project was abandoned. After 1919, this was turned into the new airport terminal. If you look up there, you can still see the old crane system from the production times. When you later leave Dresden, there's no need to be here at this airport more than 1 hour before the plane departs. It's a small and very convenient airport. If you look over there, you see the check-in counters. And then you just have to walk over there to the security check. And in no time, you'll be in your aircraft. Nice view from here, but it's time to go down to the arrival hall. Welcome to Saxony, everybody. Welcome again. I'm glad you have all safely arrived in Dresden's capital. Please don't ask me to remember all your names. I'm terrible at names, and there's so many of you. Thanks to you all for joining this trip. You have also arrived via Prague, because Prague is just 1.5 hours away from Dresden, or from Berlin, which is 2 hours away. And even from Frankfurt, at the other end of Germany, it takes just 4 hours, 15 minutes on the ICE fast train. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I will get back to them at the end of the day. So, if we think we're going to head straight to the hotel now, you're wrong. We could do that easily. Only takes 10 to 15 minutes from Dresden Airport to the city center. But there's a much nicer way to get there. In fact, everybody who comes to Dresden and has a driver should do it this way. The best way to reach Dresden city center is not by car, bus or train. It's by boat. We're here in Dresden-Pillnitz at the outskirts of Dresden, and we're gonna do a 1-hour boat ride. Mind you, not a normal boat, but one of the 9 historic paddle steamers of the Saxon steamboat company. Incidentally, we will have the flagship today, the Dresden. It is a boat ride that you'll never forget. We're gonna travel through the scenic Dresden Elbe Valley, which is so beautiful that it used to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO called it the perfect harmony of architecture and nature. It is unlike any other boat ride in the world. And even though we always travel within the city limits of Dresden, you will have the feeling that we travel through a beautiful landscape. So, welcome on board. So why is the Dresden Elbe Valley so scenic? Well, the city of Dresden never allowed anybody to build on the waterfront apart from the city center. That's why you have these beautiful green meadows followed by old farmhouses, vineyards, villas, castles and palaces, and green hills in the background. That makes it unique. The first thing we're gonna see is Pillnitz Palace. It's the summer palace of the Saxon kings, and it's built in the Chinese style. Well, not really, in the chinoiserie as they called it. Imitating Asian architecture and art was a big fashion through more than 1 century, and there's a lot of buildings like this in Dresden. Well, in other places you will find pavilions in the Chinese style, but here it's the whole palace. Equally famous is the park. It's a mixture of formal gardens and English landscape gardens with pavilions and the oldest camellia in Europe. It even has its own house on rails, so it can be protected in winter. Look this way and you see a house with blue balconies. If I was a millionaire, I would buy it. No hope. Next life, maybe. Now we're approaching a beautiful old bridge. In German it's called Blaues Wunder, which means as much as blue miracle or blue wonder. So why is it a miracle? Well, it was the first bridge of its kind, really a masterpiece of German engineering. It doesn't have any supporting arches in the river, and people were doubtful that it would take all the weight of the tram line, the vehicles, the people. But it has lasted until today. But the bridge is not the only piece of industrial heritage which is still in daily use. Here on the right-hand side you can see two things. One is a funicular that leads up to a famous restaurant called Luisenhof, called the Balcony of Dresden, from where you have a wonderful view of the city. And to the right of it, going up the other hill, is an aerial tram, which is like a hanging tram. And there are only two of that kind in Germany. This was built more than 100 years ago to transport material for the building of villas up the hill. So before the villas were here, there were lots of vineyards. And when the city expanded and got very rich in the 19th century, the vintners sold their property to the citizens who built beautiful villas all over the place. And nevertheless, there are still some vineyards left, which we'll see in a moment. Most vineyards disappeared in the 19th century. Not this one. It was once owned by the famous court jeweler Johann Melchior Dinglinger. There you now see three castles in a row. In fact, there are actually three large-scale villas. The first is Eckberg Castle. It's built in the English Tudor style, followed by what's now often called Lingner Castle, originally Villa Stockhausen, and the third one is Albrechtsberg Castle. The beautiful villas behind me have a sinister past. During the communist time, it was the headquarters of the infamous secret police, the Stasi, basically the equivalent of the KGB. When people disappeared from the streets, they often found themselves here in the Stasi prison, which is now a museum. The KGB also had its offices here, and a young employee who worked there for a while was a guy called Vladimir Putin. Our journey is about to reach its end. In a moment, we will see the famous skyline of Dresden city center. After living in Dresden for more than 20 years, my heart still skips a beat every time I see it. If you cannot get enough of this boat ride, it's also available as a return journey. Then it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours. I hope you have enjoyed this wonderful boat ride. Oh, back on solid ground. I love these steamboat rides. There are so many options. They run all the way to Meißen in the north and to the Saxon-Switzerland National Park in the south. And sometimes even across the border into the Czech Republic. Now your hotel is not far away. Finding a hotel in Dresden is no rocket science. There's everything in the city center from 2-star to 5-star. Dresden hotels offer great value for money. The competition is very fierce and there are no trade fairs. So in contrast to other large cities in Germany, hotel prices in Dresden are lower during the week. So it makes sense to come to Dresden in the week and then go to a trade fair city on the weekend. Incidentally, Leipzig, Saxony's largest city, has trade fairs. So it makes sense to visit Dresden for a few days and then spend a weekend in Leipzig. Oh, we've already arrived at your hotel. Let's go. Welcome to the city center of Dresden and welcome to the Penck Hotel. As you will discover, it's a great place to stay for lovers of the art. It is named in honor of A.R. Penck, one of the many famous post-war artists originating from Saxony. Just to name two others, Georg Baselitz and Gerhard Richter. Here in Dresden you find their works in the New Masters Picture Gallery, and of course in famous museums all over the world. But here at the hotel, every room has a piece created by A.R. Penck, and the rest of the hotel is also decorated with art. So let's check in. Come, follow me. Oh, schon alles vorbereitet, das ist aber sehr schön. Vielen, vielen Dank. Und eins. Okay, danke ich. I hope you like your rooms. I should add one more thing. Saxony doesn't suffer from mass tourism, so there are never any big crowds and there's no waiting in line. Yeah, Dresden is really an ideal base for exploring the whole of Saxony, as you will see. Nothing's really far away from here. For example, we could get to Leipzig in 1 hour 15 minutes. At the same time, we can also reach the Polish border. The Czech border is only 30 minutes away. And the Bavarian border about 2 hours. You will see that in the next few days we will reach everything within 90 minutes max. So it's very convenient indeed. So it's late afternoon now. Before we head for our welcome dinner, I would like to give you an introduction into Saxony's history, so that you know where Saxony is coming from and what it is all about. Now don't be scared. Even though I did want to become a history teacher, I will try to make it as easy on you as I can. However, Saxony's history is a tiny bit complicated, so please bear with me. Let me tell you something about Saxony and the Saxon history. The history of today's Saxony started in the 10th century when the German emperor decided to colonize the East. At this time, in this region, there were Slavic tribes. But they were easily defeated because they lived in families and villages. And they were basically assimilated by the German settlers who arrived after the Germans had conquered this area. In the beginning, this area was known as the area of Meissen, because in Meissen, that's where the Germans established their rule by building a castle on the castle hill. The emperor, of course, didn't rule from here, so he had a governor, and this governor was called Markgraf or Margrave. And the region was then the Margraviate of Meissen. With time, these Margraves became more independent from the emperor, and they rose to the rank of duke. Saxony got very rich already in the 12th century. By that time, a family had taken power which ruled Saxony for 829 years. The family von Wettin. Wettin is a town which is not in Saxony today anymore. So this family ruled until 1918, when Saxony became a republic or free state. Frederick IV helped the emperor to defeat the Hussites. The Hussites were the supporters of reformer Jan Hus, who had been burned at the stake in Constance by the emperor. So they were furious and started to devastate the lands. So after Frederick had helped him to defeat the Hussites, the emperor made him an elector. Now, what is an elector? Originally in the German Empire, there were 7 electors who elected the emperor. And these were the most powerful rulers in the German Empire. So the elector title that Frederick, then Elector Frederick I of Saxony, gained was the elector title of Saxony. Now, what is Saxony and what are the Saxons? Remember, this area was called Meissen. The Saxons were a tribe from northern Germany. They lived actually north of Hamburg, and after the Roman Empire collapsed, they moved to the south and founded a large empire, which later fell apart, and a small piece left of it around Wittenberg was called Saxony-Wittenberg, and the elector title was attached to this land. So now Frederick had a problem. He was still Margrave and Duke of Meissen, but Elector of Saxony. So quickly the name changed. One simply adopted the name Saxony, and that's how our region became Saxony. Now, what about the Anglo-Saxons? Well, there was another tribe from the north of Germany, and some of the Saxons and this tribe went over to England to help out the local ruler and decided to take over. And that's where the name England comes from. And also a lot of names in England, like Wessex, for example, means West Saxony. So now we know that Saxony basically has nothing to do with the Saxons. Okay, to make matters more confusing, we have now 3 states in Germany with Saxony in it. We have Saxony, Saxony-Anhalt, and Lower Saxony. Let me enlighten you on that too. We are Saxony. Saxony-Anhalt are former parts of Saxony which were taken away by the Prussians after the Napoleon Wars and made their province of Saxony. That was later combined with a small territory called Anhalt. And Lower Saxony, actually the area around Hanover, that's the area where the Saxons, after moving south, established their large kingdom. So this is settled now. So the Saxon rulers remained electors until the 19th century, when Napoleon conquered the German Empire. No more emperor, no more electors. They became kings by the grace of Napoleon. So the last rulers were the kings of Saxony. That's a very short version of the Saxon history. You might have noticed this mural that we've walked past. This is the so-called Procession of Princes. Well, in this 19th century that I just mentioned, this wall looked very shabby. It's the outer wall of the stable yard of the royal palace. but the decorations that were on it had faded away. Dresden was a very rich and proud city at that point, and the citizen complained. So a competition was held, and it was won by a quite unknown artist named Wilhelm Walter. You will find him portrayed at the end of this mural. So Wilhelm Walter had a suggestion that people liked for two reasons. First of all, he wanted to show horse riders. People still knew there were horse riders on this wall before that. They just had no clue what they were because they had faded away. And the second thing is that the 800th anniversary of the rule of the Wettin family was approaching. And he said, why don't we show all the rulers from the Wettin family on horseback on this wall? Now, Wilhelm Walter had been to Italy, and he had learned a technique called sgraffito. That's the Italian word for to scratch. So what you do is you apply different layers of plaster in different colors and then scratch out the decoration. So look at this. Is this a sgraffito? Definitely not. What happened? After a few years, this sgraffito started fading away. To the rescue came the director of the Meissen porcelain manufactory. He said, why don't we transfer this piece of art onto Meissen porcelain tiles? And that's exactly what you see here. 23,000 seamless Meissen porcelain tiles. In the process, they added this beautiful golden background color and the color to the coat of arms. So it was transferred onto the tiles, and at that time the last Saxon king was already in power. So they asked him, would you like to be added? He said, no, not interested. I think had he known that he was the last king, he probably would have agreed. So is this what you see here pure fantasy? Definitely not. Wilhelm Walter used historians and advisors, and as the Dresden State Art Collections, at that time still the royal collections, were founded in 1560, they had started collecting the clothes from all the rulers. So in that time we know exactly how all the rulers looked like and how they dressed up. So it's a very, very accurate depiction. All the pictures tell a story. I could carry on for 2 hours, but I would bore you to death. So let's end it here, and I hope you have a better understanding now how Saxony came into existence and how it gained its name. So, what happened to Saxony after it had become a republic or a free state? Well, it wasn't easy. First there was the hyperinflation, then the world economic crisis, then the Nazi times. And after World War II, Saxony had the misfortune of falling behind the Iron Curtain. The communists took over, and 2 out of 5 million Saxons fled to the west. Former poor houses of Germany, like Bavaria, got very wealthy, and Saxony was largely forgotten in the Western world. But since German reunification, more and more people have rediscovered Saxony. People like me, who hails from the west of Germany, have fallen in love with the region and come to live here. Another such person is Veronika Hiebel, my boss, who first came here from southwest Germany to head the Ore Mountains tourist board. Since 2019, she's been heading Saxony tourism. So, welcome, Veronika.
Yeah, welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you to the most beautiful free state and the #1 cultural destination of Germany. I hope you all had a good journey and a lovely first day. My name, as Wolfgang said, is Veronika Hiebel, and since the 1st of May last year, I'm the Managing Director of the State Tourist Board of Saxony. I'm very happy that we can welcome such a huge group from so many countries. So thank you very much for joining us. And it is really great that you take some time, especially in these times, because this year, I think, is a very challenging year for the whole tourism industry internationally and around the globe. And I like to take the opportunity to say thank you very much to Wolfgang Gärtner, our head of international marketing. Wolfgang, you designed such a marvelous program for the fan trip, and I promise you all you will have a lot of fun and that you will experience a wide range of beautiful landscapes and fantastic cultural highlights. So stay with us during the next days.
Looks like I have to ask for a rise of salary soon. Just joking. Veronica, I'm curious. What made you come to Saxony? What attracted you to Saxony and what do you like about it?
So the first step on my way to Saxony was a phone call from a headhunting agency. And they asked me whether I like to take the opportunity to change my profession. So this is quite a normal question. But the second question was very funny, because they asked me, is there any region or any state in Germany where you definitely never like to live or work? And this was really astonishing for me, because for me it's a kind of indicator that there might be a few people who really never like to live in the eastern part of Germany. And I think mainly it's because they've never been to the eastern part of Germany and especially to Saxony. And so I immediately decided to change this. So, but back to your question, what do I love in Saxony? So most fascinating for me is that our region is so unbelievable rich of art and culture. So you have small cities, you have wonderful cultural highlights, you have collections, you have a deeply rooted love of music, you have spectacular architecture. So it's so rich of art and culture. But aside from art and culture, Saxony also has to provide beautiful landscapes. So, for example, Saxonian Switzerland, or the scenic low mountain ranges, or beautiful water landscapes, or something like that. So, I know you can say there may be other regions in Germany who also have a little bit culture and also have nice landscape, and of course that's true. But for me, the very special thing in Saxony is the close relation between the lively cities and the terrific landscapes. So everything is so nearby. So let me make an example. It even takes you not even 1 hour to go from Dresden to Saxony in Switzerland, or to go for a wine taste to the beautiful vineyards near Meissen. And last but not least, I love the people. So there's a very strong attachment of the Saxons to their home, and people are so proud of their living tradition, and they like to preserve them. And last but not least, the character of the Saxons is a little bit likely to the character of the people from my home region, the Black Forest. They all are tough, but very hearty.
Yeah, very interesting what you're saying. I can relate to what you said in the beginning, what the headhunter asked you, are there regions wanted to exclude? For me, German reunification was one of the best things that happened in my life. And so I had absolutely no prejudice against the East, and I've gladly come here as well. And I don't understand why people still see this divide between East and West. Even in the travel industry, somehow still there. You do tours of West Germany or East Germany, and I strongly believe 30 years after reunification that shouldn't happen anymore. I can tell you a story from when I came here. I had some friends who I'd asked to visit me, because you know Dresden is so beautiful, and Saxony, the rest of Saxony too. So I told them, please come and visit. And they said, that's so far away. Why don't you come and visit us?
That's funny.
Yeah, it's really funny. And and it is funny indeed. And
did they come to visit you?
Yeah, most of them did eventually. That's probably because I persisted, and I've been doing this job for 20 years now, so they have no choice. Yeah, we have a lot of international guests here on this FEM trip, and I think that already indicates our commitment to the international markets. Even before your time, I remember in the beginning that we said right from the beginning when we started as Saxony Tourism in the present form that we see a big future in the international markets. How do you see the importance of the international markets yourself?
So I think it's very important, and as you said, it was always the strategy of the TMGS to be active on international marketing, and international marketing always played a very important role. And currently we work on 11 markets, as you know. I think that's very much. That's much more engagement than other German states have. And we undertake a very wide variety of measures in the different markets. And of course, as you know, we work closely together with the German National Tourist Board, but it was always very important for us to have our own representatives in some strategic markets. And even though because of the pandemic, many foreign guests were not allowed to come to Saxony, to Germany, and even still are not allowed to come, we never stopped our communication with the international markets, not even for one day. And I think this is very important. Some other countries did, they stopped their international marketing, but not Saxony. Saxony was the first state in Germany which launched a huge international campaign already at the end of April. So under the headline Saxony Travel Dreams, maybe one or the other of you knows it, because dreaming always was allowed, and dreaming still is allowed, and this campaign is still running. And in my opinion, it's absolutely important to keep in touch with our international partners and guests, and to provide them continuously with information for their program planning for the next year. And hopefully they can come soon again to Saxony.
Let me add that the strategy has definitely paid off, because we have doubled the numbers of visitors from abroad in the last 20 years, and we wouldn't mind doing that again, I'm sure. And I know that FEM trips have always been a clear element of the strategy. And how do you see the FEM trips, which I've always felt are very, very important for Saxony tourism?
I think FEM trips are really very important, because as I already mentioned, there might be a few people, but I hope only a very few around the world, who've never been here in Saxony. And even, as you already mentioned, 30 years after the reunification, for some reason Saxony is still not integrated in programs of one or the other tour operator. And sometimes it's just because they don't know in detail how beautiful Saxony is. And it's a little bit understandable if you only have printed material or some nice photos to make your decision. So I think our philosophy is seeing is believing. And so indeed, so many people who have been here once in Saxony have been really impressed and are now faithful partners and friends. And this is the reason why FEM trips are very important, to persuade the beauty of Saxony to our guests.
I think you're absolutely right, because we know, and that's important for our guests here, that the expectations that people have about Saxony are always more than fulfilled. The difficulty is always to get people here in the first place, and people from the FEM trips have always become ambassadors for Saxony, and so you see, guys, we have very high hopes for you. But what do you think is the best way to fit Saxony into a visit to Germany or to Europe? I think it's a little bit difficult. There are a few ways to fit Saxony in. So it depends on where you fly in, where you come in. But I think, the best way is to go from Berlin maybe on your way to Prague you can fit in Saxony. But I think you are the
perfect professional for program planning. So.
Well, guys, I mean, let me address you directly here. You know, you're doing this fam trip and we're spending 6 days together. So as you can see, we need a whole week to explore the whole of Saxony. And of course, I know that one doesn't always have the time to spend so much time here. And a couple of days will also be a good start. But anyway, I also agree with Veronica that it can be combined with almost everything. And yeah, there are many options. Also, like I suggested before, stop dividing up Germany into a west and an eastern part and say this is Western Europe tour, that's Eastern European tour, because I already told you how easy it is to come from the far west, like Frankfurt, to Dresden, which is kind of in the far east. It's not very far at all.
So I hope the new airport in Berlin will help us to get a lot more international connections. So I think the connections are always very important. So normally it goes via Frankfurt or via Munich. Now we have Berlin. Berlin is quite nearby, 1.5 hours away, and yeah, in between 1.5 hours you are here in Saxony and can see everything.
Yeah. Thanks, Veronica. Nice talking to you. Nice of you to join us. Yeah, you must have had a long journey and it must be jet-lagged, so at least some of you, and so we don't want to keep you for so long today. So let's head for our welcome dinner. For that, we have chosen a very special place that you will hopefully enjoy. Let's just walk there. It's a very short walk. Here we are at the Kosel Palace. It was built in the 18th century for the son of our most illustrious ruler Augustus the Strong and his favorite mistress, Countess Anna Constantia von Kosel. It was destroyed in World War II, and when they decided to rebuild it in the 1990s, they found under it the foundations of the old gunpowder tower. So they decided to incorporate it into the new building and turn it into a restaurant called Pulverturm, which means gunpowder tower. So let's go and eat. Behind me, you now can see the foundations of the old gunpowder tower. This is the main room, but there are also other cellars, and each cellar has its own theme. Cheers! The restaurants serve Saxon specialties and hearty food. I'm getting hungry. Let's see what the chef has prepared for us. Oh. Wonderful. Enjoy. Thank you very much. So this is potato soup, Saxon style. All the ingredients are mashed, of course, apart from the nice sausage slices. And they also have homemade bread. So let's dig in. Thank you. Our main course is juicy suckling pig with sauerkraut and a huge potato dumpling.
Your dessert?
That is the typical Saxon cake, our dessert. Eierschecke. Strange name, I won't explain it to you. When I have to describe it, I always say it's like a cheesecake at the bottom with a sweet omelette on top. Just delicious. And you can only find it here in Saxony and in former Saxon territories. So, let's have something sweet. Enjoy. let's finish it off with the digestive. To enjoy this herbal liquor, you have to be very, very fast. You have to put your finger under the funnel. Very fast. Got it. No, got you. Thank you. I know I said I won't keep you today, but still, let's have a quick nightcap at my favorite bar. It's called Frank's Bar, and this is the owner, naturally called Ilya. Now, don't get confused. There really was a Frank, and he ran the bar for more than 20 years, but he's handed it over to Ilya, who used to work for him. So, Ilya has prepared a special drink for us. Every day he will prepare a drink for us. Actually, I will drag you here all the time. So let's see what today's drink is. Oh. Since Veronica is with us today, we've chosen this one. It's Black Forest cake, but as a drink. So let me tell you what the ingredients are. I've written it down. So it's Mozart dry chocolate vodka, crème de coco, cherry juice, cream, chocolate chips, and dried sour cherries. So everything you need. Cheers. Just delicious. So, it's time for your questions now. Let's see if there are any. So everybody's getting hungry, I can see that. After what we... Yeah, looks like there are no questions yet, which is perfectly fine. It's the first day, you've just arrived, and so that doesn't matter. I will send you off to bed now. Maybe Veronica and I can say goodbye to you together. Just give us a second. First, before I do that, let me tell you what we're going to do tomorrow, so that you can look forward to it. Tomorrow we will explore Dresden further, and then we will head for the marvelous Saxony, Switzerland National Park that Veronica already mentioned. So tomorrow will be a longer day. So that's why it's important for you to sleep well and be fit in the morning when I pick you up again. So, lots of mixing going on.
Yeah.
So Veronica will also have one. It's Black Forest cake after all.
He's going to mix the same for me, because I really have to taste the Black Forest drink. Ooh, sounds good and looks good.
Anyway, for now, we'd like to say good night, which in German is Gute Nacht.
So, thank you for joining us. Gute Nacht, have a nice day, and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.